All aboard the Inland Empire Express. 10:50 a.m. Leaving no listeners behind. KCAA.
Welcome to Money Talk. I'm Jesse Torres.
And I'm Aaron Michael Sanchez.
Right, Aaron, it is Wednesday, 4 p.m.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this show. It's funny. I've been talking to people that have been listening to this show, and some that have said that they have had an idea for a while and they have not implemented that idea. Now they're looking at ways to take it to the next step.
You're right. And we've had so many great guests. We've had so many successful entrepreneurs. We've had so many entrepreneurs that are just getting started. And then we had, if you recall, not too long ago, we had the founder of Wayfounder, who works with the non-entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
And and what he did is he started a company that helps those individuals that have great ideas but don't necessarily want to run their own companies, and helps them get money for them. He buys their ideas essentially through after they go through a competition, and rewards them for their ideas. And so we have been able to touch really across the board different types of entrepreneurs, whether they're in technology, whether they're in the food service business, whether they're in construction, whether they're in shipping, as well as those that are the non-entrepreneurs. But one area where we've received a lot of comments, and up until today we hadn't been able to respond, is the social entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the social entrepreneur, what exactly does that mean in today's world?
Yeah, well, we're going to find out in a little bit, but at the end of the hour, we're going to be speaking with Maggie McClure.
Yes, I'm so excited for this. Maggie McClure is a songwriter and musician from Oklahoma, but I think we're going to talk about her business side and how she's been able to cross that bridge of musician, because I've spoken to her in the past, and she has said that there is a market for musicians in film, but how do you get to that, and where's the money at, really?
Right, and with social media,
mm-hmm.
and with all of the tools that historically were not accessible to artists, to musicians, now they are. And now, these days, as an individual musician, you're able to create your first album,
mm-hmm.
Develop it, and get it going, and then market it, and then have your music listened to, all through channels that are very different from the channels that historically have been used. You no longer need necessarily radio to get heard and to get found. Now we have places like Pandora. We have mm-hmm. places, similar to that you can work with. Spotify, exactly. That now they're out there and they're helping musicians get the word out, get their music out. And so we're going to be speaking to Maggie about the business of being an independent musician in this day and age, and the challenges that she's had, but as well as the opportunities that she sees in the future.
Yeah, it's an ever-changing climate when it comes to music, and it makes you wonder, where does the future lie? Just like television, where does the future lie since online has taken over? It's interesting. I think it allows for people to choose what they want more now. But the question is, are people consuming more? And I believe they are.
Yeah, and along those lines, we'll talk a little bit about the latest New Yorker article in the December issue that talks about how YouTube has actually, in a sense, taken over Hollywood, and how it is the new Hollywood. So,
mm-hmm.
We heard about Bollywood some years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's YouTube, and how YouTube has developed itself really as a new destination.
Yulewood.
For Yulewood or Yulewood, right? But it's developed itself as a new destination, particularly for the millennial age, in terms of entertainment. So things are changing fast, and it's an exciting time to be alive.
Can I just share, for those of you listening, if you want to join any of our conversation, either on Twitter or on Facebook, you can follow Jesse at
JS Torres
and me at Aaron M. Sanchez, both on Facebook and Instagram. You have a Facebook as well.
Yeah, you can find me facebook.com/Money Talk with Jesse Torres.
Awesome. So join us on the conversation. If you have any questions during the show, let us know, and we will try to ask the questions during the show.
Fantastic. So let's go ahead and get started. So on the phone we have Mark Horoszowski. He's a CEO and co-founder of Moving Worlds. Mark, welcome to Money Talk.
Hey, thanks so much. Excited to be here.
No, well, Mark, thank you for joining us. I don't know if you heard the beginning. No, we have had really every type of entrepreneur on our show, but one, and that's the entrepreneur, the individual who has chosen to make a living out of making the world a better place. And so welcome, as the CEO and co-founder of Moving Worlds, welcome to Money Talk, because we have so many questions for you. Can you start out, in a sense, by sort of giving us a brief background on what Moving Worlds does, what your goal is, and then kind of take a step back and tell us how you ended up in that role? Because in looking at your bio, it looks like you took a traditional route to a non-traditional career path.
Sure, yeah, and happy to. So, yeah, the way that we look at what a social enterprise is if you look at a traditional way of making an impact, you look at a lot of nonprofits, right? You have two main parts of a nonprofit: one that creates an impact, and then a separate fundraising arm that has to develop fundraising strategies to be able to fuel that impact. And what we look for is, what was the way to actually align both your business and your impact strategy so that every dollar you make is actually resulting to an impact in the field. And the impact that excited us the most was how do you accelerate the progress of entrepreneurs and change makers and social agents around the world. And increasingly, that's not an access to capital problem, that's an access to talent problem. So tons of great ideas, not enough skills to help those ideas grow and scale. And we figured that a great way to do that would be to connect people with skills to international experiences where they can volunteer. So Moving Worlds does that. We help professionals find social impact organizations around the world where they can volunteer their skills and in exchange get an immersive local benefit, typically a free place to stay, and really like an immersive cultural experience that also makes an impact. And we work with people individually and also corporations who are harnessing that as part of a leadership development program.
So tell me, you and I believe it's your organization, because I never heard the term before, experteering. What do you mean when you use the term experteer?
Yeah, so we were trying to figure out a way, how do we really inspire to use their most important asset, right? Their brain and their time. And we didn't feel like volunteer was doing that justice, especially in international environments. So experteering is volunteering your expertise. And in the way that we operate with Moving Worlds, that's typically in an international environment.
So for decades, we've had organizations, we've had, one of the big ones, the Peace Corps, for example, but we've had Teach for America. We've had all these organizations that, you would consider to be typical nonprofit organizations. Where does Moving Worlds fall in? It seems to me this is, in a sense, the next generation of that type of organization, but I don't want to call it a nonprofit because I think nonprofit doesn't give it justice. But where do you see in the evolution of this type of organization of the Peace Corps, the Teach for America, all those, the Greenpeace even? Where do you see yourself in that spectrum?
Yeah, and I really like to use the word spectrum, right? Because I think there's places for everybody. And like I still volunteer a ton with the American Cancer Society. There isn't money to be made, for all problems. And so the way that we really see ourselves in the evolution of in some of those other organizations that you spoke about is I really try and think about like customers, like who are people that are looking for experiences. And I think out of college, there's places like Peace Corps and Teach for America are fantastic. Like you don't have to be highly skilled, but once you have skills, it's sometimes harder to, and a little more established, it's harder to step away for a year or 2 years that some of these programs require. And a lot of the problems that, especially if you think about smaller organizations around the world, the biggest job creators in impoverished environments, they're not nonprofits, actually other startups and other social entrepreneurs. And being able to actually go and use your skills in a short time frame actually can contribute to those organizations, can help them scale up, can help them grow to create more jobs in their own communities, and can transfer skills. But I think there's another important part of that puzzle as well, which is if you think about college students that are going to Peace Corps, it is an experience, building experience for that person. And increasingly, we see professionals, early to even late career, who view international experience as their career accelerator. It helps them get ahead in their current role. There was actually a really great article in HBR not that long ago about why managers need global experience, articulating that people with global experience are more innovative, they're more creative, and they're more likely to also be better people leaders. And
Mark,
I think that
I have a question on this. You have a membership site, and I want to point out that you have a basic and then you have a premium. And to be a part of this, I mean, you go through the verification on both sides, right? I mean, you go through the verification of the people that you're referring them to and then the people that sign up on this. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we think it's really important in volunteering your skills that you find an organization that legitimately needs your skills. And then, of course, there's also a legitimate organization. Because we're working with typically smaller organizations in the field, it's not always clear whether that organization is real, is legitimate, is safe. And so we source organizations around the world primarily through partners who are helping them grow. These partners have been everything from the Gates Foundation to Ashoka to Mercy Corps. And we also give them some readiness about how do you host somebody from another area? How do you help give them some relevant skills and insight? And then on the other side, the professional, what we're really looking for is a demonstrable skill, and find that a little bit of exposure, connecting your social media accounts, being able to confirm in the process. That's a little bit what we do on both sides.
So, Mark, can you speak to, you're set up as, and I saw this on your website, you're set up as a B Corp, which is a social purpose corporation. Can you speak to, the differences between a B Corp and, C Corps, S Corps, and other organizations like that, and what that means to an organization such as yours?
Absolutely. I think there's two really important parts of the whole B Corp movement that are often kind of crossed over in explanation. And so the first one is there is increasingly a legal entity being adopted by states. And it's different in every state. I'm based out of Washington. It's a Washington Purpose Corporation. In some other corporations, it's actually called a benefit corporation. I believe California has even a couple status now, including a flexible purpose corporation. And in your bylaws, in your corporate charter, you articulate your social mission much like you would a nonprofit. And that means that the board and the executive leadership team is able to continue to steer decisions based not just on maximizing shareholder wealth, but actually on their social mission. And that's the biggest differentiator between that and, say, a C Corp or an S Corp, is that drives towards the social mission. Now, in addition, there's also a status you can get, which is called the B Corp, and that's funded by a nonprofit called B Labs, where it's almost like LEED certification on a building, where you take an assessment and a third party verifies that in addition to your legal paperwork that articulates that you exist for your mission, you also do other things operationally that this company views that you're a good company for the world. And
Mark, in sourcing the organizations that you work with to place individuals, are these strictly international organizations, or do you work with any domestic entities that could use some of those expertise, or is it just folks that are abroad, or is it just organizations that are abroad, rather?
Right. Yeah. So our maybe traditional tech style approach to it, right, is we're very much a platform to connect people with skills to organizations that need skills. But personally, I think we offer the most value when you can't just meet that hosting organization for a cup of coffee down the street. And so anytime that you're probably stepping on a plane, that's where, in addition to just the matching process that we do, but also the training process that we provide, the support team that's accessible to help answer questions, and also the planning process that we enforce is where we add enough value that people are using us for travel-related volunteering.
Yeah, and so then that is I think you used the term earlier, an immersive experience. And so I suppose, and that's where the immersive piece comes in, where, essentially you're all in. You get on a plane, you fly to some foreign place. It's not like you can just walk out. I mean, once you commit, you've made a pretty significant commitment to pitch in and to help out the organization to which you've been assigned. Now, how how do you decide? So you mentioned that you source these organizations, but are all the organizations social enterprises, or are some of them for profit? Because on your website you mentioned the access to talent is the leading barrier to progress, and it's not just social organizations around that that contribute. It's the for profits, it's the the technology bases within certain third world countries that need to be developed. It's on and on and on. Do you source or do you place your folks, your expertise within both the social enterprise nonprofit world as well as for-profit organizations abroad?
We do. There's a common theme, which is that somewhere the organization is able to tell a social story, and that might be job creation. We placed an entrepreneur who used to, an expertire who used to be at Intel with the entrepreneur in a city in Brazil with pretty high unemployment rates, helped grow that organization from 8 people to 70 people. All by helping drive sales and attracting international capital. And you look at that, which is, it is a for-profit company. It does exist to elevate, its own earnings, but also to create opportunities for people within its community. And, what is the value of a job, right? Of instilling dignity and giving people the opportunity to create their own livelihood, fund their own education, and so on. And so what we look for is just something where there is a relatable story that can be told, and we give those organizations the avenue to tell that. And it has been, a for-profit startup like that growing quickly, and it's also been a very small, bilingual school. So it really stretches the gamut. We try and create opportunities for anybody with skills that's interested in going.
You do speak of that story. Can you elaborate on some other, another story that of somebody that has gone? I see a few on your website here regarding those that have gone, like to Ghana. Can you speak of a story that has been impactful?
Yeah, the Ghana story. I'm assuming it's that of Michael. It's one I love. Right, it's a gentleman that had been in the accounting industry for 30 years, had a passion also for photography. We connected him to a nonprofit that needed both accounting and photography support. And it was a nonprofit that was actually building a college of integrative medicine, especially to place doctors in more rural areas across Ghana. And so he went, helped them create a partnership with a American nonprofit, and then through that have been able to kick off an expanded fundraising campaign, also help them dial in their financials in order to I think qualify for that campaign, and then along the way got to take photos on the side, which now is actually continuing to sell in part as a fundraiser for that nonprofit. So one of the pieces I love about that is the gentleman had never traveled overseas, family had immigrated over from Ghana, long before his time. And it was a place that he always wanted to go back to. And I thought, what an incredible way to go back to touch your history in a way by giving back to it. That story touched my heart.
So, Mark, your expertise, are they expected to fully fund their trip, or are they provided some form of support while they're abroad by the organization that they're placed with? Or, how does that work? So if someone might be interested in sharing their expertise, what should they expect from the financial resource perspective?
Yeah, so, again, we have a platform approach to that where organizations are able to say, this is what I can provide. We really try and draw the line and say, you've got to provide free accommodations, right? These are people that are traveling and giving their skills and helping to your organization. And if you can't give them a free place to live, we have to wonder how valuable is that project and will that person really have a good experience? So we really, really push for that. And in fact, almost all our programs offer that. In addition, more resource heavy organizations, right? Maybe some of these for-profit organizations that are growing, maybe they can also provide a travel stipend. Currently there's an organization in Thailand that's helping actually pay for, the airfare as well as covering all in-country living expenses, like accommodations, but also a very, very small stipend, but still a stipend nonetheless to help cover, local living, transportation, and food. And so, we really see the gamut, and it depends on the organization. And what we say is, we'll continue to work with you to find new opportunities if one doesn't exist that doesn't meet what your needs are, both in terms of skill set and time frame and expenses.
Well, I love what you're doing right now, and I think what you need to do more of is offer. I see that you have couples, families, and groups that you can offer to as well, or that can partake in this. Have you done for those wanting to divorce, going through this to save their marriage? Like a group, family, stay together after this volunteer expertise. Yes.
We haven't tried the therapy sessions yet, but it's a good idea.
So, tell me, Mark, if you mentioned that there are companies that consider sending employees, what's the typical reason why an organization, let's say here in the U.S., would encourage its employees to go abroad? Is it to gain leadership skills, or what reasons have you seen, and what's the value of an organization saying, hey, I've got a big group of folks, particularly many of those that might be unattached, let's say that maybe love travel or love to see new parts of the world. What's the benefit to the organization to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to let go of this resource for a period of time and let them go abroad? How does the organization benefit? Yeah,
it's a great question, and I'm actually diving into the show from Johannesburg right now, where I'm out here supporting one of our corporate clients,
wow.
Microsoft. So there's also a big storm in the background. I don't know if you've been able to hear that at all, so apologize for the background noise. But the reason that I'm out here is because Microsoft is connecting its employees who apply in for this program to support startups, schools, nonprofits, and innovation hubs across Africa as a way to both help develop the capacity of these change makers on the ground. But what they're finding is that the people that go are saying things like, this is the best development experience I've ever had, the highlight of my career. We're seeing that in connecting to these opportunities are learning a few really, really, really valuable skills, right? One is just improved communication. Right? I can sit at a table with people from different cultures, from different backgrounds, and we can work together to communicate and create demonstrable change. And in that is a huge confidence boost that I think really circles on communication and those people's abilities to communicate more effectively and work together with their peers more effectively when they return home. Now, the second one is this idea of kind of operating in ambiguity, right? If you're from a big corporation, you're used to having everything around you. When you go to work with a smaller nonprofit in the field, even if it's a well-known one, like we just placed a team with the Red Cross in Kenya, even with organizations like that, they don't have the same level of resources, right? You find yourself trying to deliver on projects with fewer people, with fewer resources, and in doing that, you end up being a little bit more innovative, right? A little more creative about how do you deliver results, even if you don't have all the resources. So we're seeing people come back a little bit more communicative. We're seeing come back better at innovating and operating in ambiguity. And third, people are recognizing more so their inherent talent in an experience like this, right? It's the skill that they fall back on. It's the bright spot that they end up working on. It's the thing that they end up teaching to others that they're actually supporting. And in doing that teaching and in trusting that skill in the environment, they're coming back more confident in that own skill set. And once you combine those strings back home, it makes you a better team member. It makes you a better individual contributor. And increasingly, companies are looking for those skills, especially in their managers. And I think earlier I started to mention there's the HBR article on what makes the best managers. And indeed, increasingly, employers are looking for that global experience. And sometimes it's hard to get, but this makes it an approachable way for people to get international exposure, potentially in a lot of different areas throughout their career, so that they can continue to develop and to grow. And that's incredibly valuable for corporations, and we're seeing a pretty rapid growth in international corporate volunteering as a result.
And that's that's great, because you're absolutely right. As a manager, I'm always looking for folks that have the ability to think, in a sense, and innovate, like you said. And a lot of times that ability to innovate comes from a past experience, and it might be a past experience doing the same thing, but in many cases it could also be a past experience doing something completely unrelated, but that use those muscles, if you will, those mental muscles, to create and to think through challenges to come up with a solution. And so I can definitely see how being placed out there on your own, in a sense, I mean, you don't have the support network of friends, of family, of coworkers necessarily there to, you're in a sense, you're on your own to come up with, I mean, you're with those around you in that setting, but certainly you're not in your comfort zone, and you're forced more than maybe at any point in your time to really come up with a solution on your own. And it really kind of forces you to be, like you said, more innovative. One last question for you, because we're running out of time. Who have you found to be the typical expertier? Or, is it, because in my mind, and maybe I'm just discriminating against those my age and older, but it seems to me this is something that's right down the alley of the millennial. But is that the case, or do you see expertiers coming from all backgrounds, all ages, all, everything? Yeah,
20 years old to 72 so far. But I think that the commonality is there's a hunger to learn, there's a hunger to give back, but there's also a hunger to develop new skills to get ahead. So, these are people that are, maybe have retired and are now on an entrepreneurial journey themselves, and they're using this experience to go work with other startups as a way to jumpstart their own entrepreneurial journey. Or it's somebody who's looking to transfer a career into international development, or just into a different part of business, maybe from tech into marketing. So it's really for all ages. The highest concentrations are in the young to mid-career professional or in the retirees. But so far we've seen everything, and it's always exciting to hear the stories of everybody that engages.
Well, great. Well, so Mark Horoszowski, CEO and co-founder of Moving Worlds, coming to us from Johannesburg. How does someone reach you if they have, or how does someone reach the organization if they have more questions about what you do?
Yeah, and love all questions. The very best is over email. I'm mark@movingworlds.org. You can find us at movingworlds.org and cruise around our website and ask us questions to there, or on Twitter at Experteering.
Fantastic. Well, Mark Horoszowski, CEO, co-founder of Moving Worlds, thank you for joining us on Money Talk this afternoon.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
And we'll be back with more Money Talk after these messages. Money, 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 money.